You wake up feeling heavy before your feet even hit the floor. The first thing you do? You reach for your phone, you scroll through bad news, other people's highlight reels, and endless distractions. Life has never been easier. Food, comfort, technology at your fingertips. But somehow, just existing has never felt harder. This isn't just burnout. It's a psychological trap that almost all of us are walking into without realizing. If this sounds familiar, you are not broken. You are living in a time that quietly makes existing feel heavier than it has ever felt before. Let's step into the day of one person as a way to gain a deeper understanding of this. Chris wakes up before the sun has fully climbed over the city. His alarm does not just ring, it slices through his sleep like a sharp edge. For a few long seconds, he stays completely still, hoping that maybe his body will forget it has to move. Morning used to feel like a beginning, now it feels like a continuation. Yesterday's worries did not end last night. They simply paused, then hit play again as soon as his eyes opened. He grabs his phone automatically. There is no conscious decision, it is a reflex. His thumb flicks the screen upward. Headlines about political chaos, clips of disasters, a viral video shaming someone for a mistake, someone his age buying their first home, someone else announcing a 6-figure salary. Yet another morning routine promising success. In less than 3 minutes, his mind has been dragged through a range of emotions, including fear, envy, guilt, and a vague sense of failure. He has not even gotten out of bed. This is not an accident, it is a design. Our nervous systems evolved for a world of small tribes, limited information, and clear threats. They were built to react to a rustle in the bushes, not to 500 emotional shocks before breakfast. Today, the average person is exposed to an amount of information in a single day that would have been unimaginable for earlier generations. Our brains are ancient hardware being asked to run an operating system that never shuts down. No wonder they overheat. Chris finally pushes himself out of bed. As he showers, he thinks about his to-do list for work. Emails, meetings, a project that is overdue. He also thinks about his student loans, his rent, and his credit card balance. In theory, he is doing okay. He has a job, he is not living on the street, but the feeling is not okay. The feeling is, if I slip even a little, everything might fall apart. This is extremely common in modern America. The cost of living has risen steadily. Wages often feel like they are chasing a train that keeps accelerating out of reach. Even people who look stable on the outside feel like they are running on a treadmill that never slows down. The finish line is not a place you reach. It's a point you pass. It is an idea you chase. You might get a promotion, but within months your new salary is swallowed by higher prices, new expectations, and new pressures. The mind begins to relate to life as an endless race against time, inflation, and the achievements of others. On the commute, whether it is in a car, a subway, or just a short walk from the bedroom to a home office, Chris checks his messages. Group chats with co-workers, family texts asking for updates, an email from his boss was sent late last night. Social media notifications that whisper, "Look at this, you might miss something." By the time work officially starts, his attention has already been cut into tiny pieces. Psychologists call this fragmentation of attention. The mind constantly switches tasks, platforms, and emotional contexts. 1 second, you are reading a serious article about climate change. The next, you are watching a cat video, and then you reply, LOL, to a friend. Each individual thing might seem harmless, but the overall effect is like spinning in circles. It becomes harder to focus deeply on any one task. This makes work feel more demanding, even when the job is not physically hard. When Chris logs onto his first video meeting of the day, his face appears in the tiny camera window. He smiles, or at least he arranges his facial muscles into something that resembles a smile. His voice sounds normal, but inside, he feels strangely disconnected. It is as if his body is sitting in the chair, while his thoughts float slightly to the left of his head. He listens and nods as colleagues talk about deliverables and deadlines. At the same time, another part of his mind is watching him from a distance, judging, comparing, wondering if everyone else finds it this hard to care. In past generations, many people's struggles were visible. They were tied to physical labor, wars, and direct survival challenges. Life was harsh, but its demands were clear. You worked the land, you went to the factory, you built, you repaired, you raised children, you showed up. The rhythm was tangible, even if it was exhausting. Today, for many people, the struggle is less about sheer survival and more about an invisible sense of pressure. Overstimulation, constant comparison, the fear of falling behind in an ever-changing economy, and the sense of not knowing what your life is actually about. At lunch, Chris eats while scrolling. He sees couples posting about relationship goals, friends from college announcing engagements, pregnancies, new homes, and pictures from trips to places he has only seen on screens. He also sees influencers posting about how they escaped the 9-to-5 and now make money in their sleep. On an intellectual level, he knows these are highlight reels, not full stories, but emotionally, his nervous system responds as if everyone else is winning at a game where he is stuck at level 1. Can't we? This is where social media subtly turns from connection to competition. Human beings have always compared themselves to others, but there used to be a limited circle of people you saw daily. Now, your comparison group is the entire planet. You are no longer just keeping up with your neighbors. You are competing with millions of curated identities. This constant ranking of self-worth against an impossible standard quietly erodes self-esteem. It makes ordinary human days, full of small wins and small struggles, feel like failure. In the afternoon, work drags on. Chris finishes tasks, replies to messages, and checks boxes. On paper, he is productive. Inside, he feels oddly hollow, as if the actions are not connected to anything larger. He wonders, often silently, what is all of this for? Not the survival part. He understands the need to pay bills. He means the deeper part, the part that asks, is there a reason I'm here beyond checking emails and making money? This question directly addresses what many sociologists refer to as a crisis of meaning. For much of history, people inherited a clear structure of belief and belonging, from religion, local communities, big extended families, and cultural traditions. Those frameworks were not perfect, but they offered answers to basic questions. Who am I? Where do I belong? What is a good life supposed to look like? Today, many of those structures have weakened or disappeared. People have more freedom to define their own path, but with that freedom comes confusion. If nothing is given, everything must be chosen, and that can be overwhelming. By early evening, Chris closes his laptop. From the outside, his day looks normal. He did his job, he paid his bills, he replied to messages, he even hit a small personal goal, drinking more water, walking a few extra steps, something his health app will congratulate him for. Yet when he sits down on the couch, a familiar emptiness returns. It is not outright despair, but a kind of dull ache, a sense that life is happening to him, not with him. He opens a streaming platform and scrolls through it without making a selection for several minutes. There are thousands of options, but none of them feel quite right. This is the paradox of choice in everyday form. When everything is available all the time, nothing feels special, and choosing becomes strangely stressful. In theory, more options mean more happiness. In practice, they often mean more doubt, second-guessing, and low-level frustration. At some point, he picks a show and lets it play in the background while he checks social media again. He is not fully engaged with either of them. His attention is split, and under the noise, the same question keeps whispering, why is existence so hard? To answer that, it helps to take a step back. Modern life places human beings under 3 significant pressures simultaneously. The first pressure is on our attention. Apps, platforms, and devices are designed to capture and keep us engaged. Every notification is a tiny pull on the mind. Over time, this constant tug of war leaves us mentally tired, even if we have done nothing physically demanding. The second pressure is economic. Many people are working harder just to maintain their current position. Wages feel unstable, jobs feel insecure, housing, healthcare, and education costs continue to rise. The story that if you just work hard, you will be safe, no longer matches many people's reality. This creates a persistent background anxiety, a sense that the ground is never quite solid. The third pressure is psychological and existential. As traditional communities weaken and shared stories about what life is for become less common, individuals are left to construct their own meaning. For some, this is empowering. For many others, especially when combined with economic stress and information overload, it is disorienting. When you do not know what your life is about, everything you do can start to feel empty. Different groups feel these pressures in different ways. A college student might feel it as, what major should I pick that will not ruin my future? Someone in their 30s might feel it as, I am behind. Others my age have careers, houses, families. What am I doing? A parent might feel it as, I must keep it together for my kids, but I am running on fumes. An older adult might feel it as, the world changed so fast. Do I still matter in it? On the surface, their lives look different. Underneath, the emotional landscape shares a lot. Fatigue, confusion, quiet fear, and loneliness. And then there is hustle culture, the idea that you should grind constantly, sleep less, and always be working on something. Somewhere along the way, rest stopped being seen as a natural need and became a guilty pleasure, something to earn after proving your worth through output. Social media amplifies this by celebrating overnight success stories, rise and grind slogans, and videos of people waking up at 4:30 a.m. to optimize every minute of their day. The problem is that human bodies and minds do not function optimally in a state of permanent overdrive. We have limits. Without real rest, the nervous system gets stuck in a state of chronic stress. Over time, that can lead to burnout, where everything feels flat and effortful. You can perform, but it feels like moving through thick mud. Loneliness quietly worsens all of this. You can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. You can have hundreds of connections online and still feel that nobody truly knows you. In America, loneliness has been described as an epidemic, linked to higher risks of mental health issues and even physical illness. Humans are social creatures. When we feel disconnected, the brain interprets this as a sign of danger. It responds with hypervigilance, anxiety, and sometimes numbness as a form of self-protection. If you recognize yourself in any part of Chris's day, remember this. Your struggle is not proof that you have failed at life. It is proof that you are sensitive to a world that is, in many ways, not designed for human well-being. That sensitivity is not weakness. It is a sign that your mind and body are trying to communicate something to you. They are signaling that the current state of affairs is unsustainable. So, what can be done? The problems are big and systemic. No single person can fix them all. But on a personal level, there are ways to make existing feel less like dragging yourself through mud and more like inhabiting your own life again. One place to start is attention. Think of your attention as the most valuable yet limited resource you own. Whatever you give it grows in your inner world. When you give your attention to endless negativity, comparison, and noise, your inner world becomes chaotic and heavy. When you give it to things that ground you, nature, music, a real conversation, even the rhythm of your own breath, your inner world begins to settle. Practically, this might involve choosing specific times to check news and social media, rather than opening them throughout the day. It might mean turning off non-essential notifications so that your phone stops acting like a fire alarm. It might mean taking a 10-minute walk without earbuds, just noticing the sky, the trees, or the buildings around you. These actions sound small, but they are like tiny acts of rebellion against a system that expects your attention to be available 24/7. Another place to focus is connection. Not the superficial kind where you scroll through other people's lives, but the kind where you share something real and allow yourself to be seen. This could involve calling a friend and being honest instead of saying, "I'm fine," by default. It could be joining a local group, a class, a club, or a community organization where you repeatedly see the same faces and slowly build trust. It might even be telling someone, "Hey, I have been struggling lately," and letting them respond. Long-term research on happiness has shown that the quality of our relationships is one of the strongest predictors of well-being. Not the number of friends, but the depth of a few connections. One genuine friend is more protective of the soul than 1,000 likes. A third area is meaning. Meaning does not always arrive as a lightning bolt. It is often discovered through small, consistent choices. You might find a sense of purpose in caring for a child or a pet, in creating art that nobody else ever sees, in mentoring someone younger, in volunteering for a cause, or in learning a skill that matters to you. The key is that meaning tends to come from contributing to something beyond yourself. When you ask, what tiny thing can I do today that aligns with the kind of person I want to be, and you act on that, you are participating in your own meaning-building process. Over time, these small acts give your life shape. They do not make problems disappear, but they make the weight feel more bearable. There is also the question of professional support. Sometimes the heaviness of existing crosses a line into clinical depression, anxiety disorders, or other mental health conditions. These are not moral failures, they are health issues that deserve real care. In such cases, consulting a therapist, counselor, or doctor can be life-saving. Therapy is not just for when things are really bad. It can be a space to understand yourself, to learn tools for navigating stress, and to rewrite old patterns. Reaching out for help is not a sign that you could not handle it. It is a sign that you value your life enough to fight for it. As the night deepens, Chris turns off the TV. For a moment, there is silence again, but this time he chooses to stay with it instead of immediately filling it with more noise. He sits on the edge of his bed, feeling the weight of the day, but also the fact that he made it through. He places his phone face down just for a few minutes. He takes a slow breath in and a slow breath out, paying attention to nothing but that movement. This small act will not fix the economy, change social media, or rewrite the culture of productivity, but it does something important. It reminds his nervous system that he is more than a machine responding to alerts, that he has an inner space that is his own. Existing in today's world is hard. The pace is relentless, the demands are high, the noise is endless, but hard does not mean hopeless. Beneath the pressure and confusion, the fundamental ingredients of a meaningful life remain unchanged. Presence, connection, purpose. These are still available even if they are harder to access. If you wake up heavy, if the simple act of existing feels like work, remember this: you are not alone in that feeling. You are not defective for having it. Much of what you are feeling is a sane response to an insane environment. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to take a break for a while. You are allowed to seek support. You are allowed to choose presence over performance, connection over isolation, and meaning over distraction. The goal is not to make life perfectly easy. Life has never been that way for anyone. The goal is to make it meaningful enough, connected enough, and grounded enough that the weight you carry becomes something you can live with, rather than something that crushes you. And in that space, where you are not running from your life but living inside it, just existing begins slowly to feel a little less hard and a lot more human.